Um, Good morning and welcome to the Eacc, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, an independent commission set up by the people of Kenya through the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and Article 79. We are an independent institution whose mandate is to combat corruption through investigations and as well as public education and mobilization. And actually, our purpose for engagement this morning is also to see how much you have for the support and participation in the process of fighting corruption, and how much you think we should do henceforth. We have a vision of working a society, ethical society, based on our retiring strategic plan. We are on the verge of launching a new strategic plan with a very clear vision of an integrity-ridden, driven Kenyan people. Integrity-driven Kenyan people, people who are conscious of themselves, people who are ethical in their conduct, people who really value integrity and ethics in their daily processes. And through that, we will be able to make sure that our processes are run whether at public offices or private levels to the advantage and in the interest of each and every one of us as Kenyans. So welcome to our program today, and let me hear a few of your views, and also shed light on some of our achievements and our critical pillars as we look forward to the new strategic time frame between 2018 and 2023. Thank you. And just to shed light on some of our critical areas, is that in the last 5 years, we've engaged the people of Kenya in various ways, and particularly in as far as implementing matters within our mandate and ensuring that we have achieved all that is outlined for us within that time period. I can share with you a few of our critical information, and one of them is that we have traced public assets. In our daily process of engagement, we usually have complaints of people who bring information on how many and where public assets are and what values as we ascertain in as far as the assets that may be under threat is concerned. So within the 5-year period that I'm talking about, we traced public assets to a total value of about 22 billion Kenya shillings. And, to be a bit precise, 21.7 or so. And we have recovered assets worth over 3.6 billion Kenya shillings. And some of these assets, to be specific, include, like in Nairobi, the former mayor's house in Lavington. The mayor of Nairobi had a house in Lavington, but taken over by a former senior public official and converted into private use. But we went to court and recovered the same. The Grand Regency Hotel, of course, is a product of the Commission's recovery efforts. In Mombasa, you can recall in 2014, or you may know that in 2014 we recovered assets, um, many in statistics and varied in values, but some of the notable ones include the Uhuru Gardens, which is in the heart of Mombasa Island, a public resting place, just comparable to Uhuru Park of Nairobi. Um, the public beach at Mamangina Drive, also another one, but the public beach, the Pirates in Mombasa, which is under the stewardship of the National Museums of Kenya. And of course, along the Mamangina Drive, also a few other assets and many more, including a beach access road in the Shanzu area of Mombasa, and many more that we valued as over 3 billion shillings then. In Kisumu, Taifa Park is one of the notable assets. In Nyeri recently, the Karatina police station land, which we actually uh, presented to the police leadership under the IG a few months ago. So this is a very critical area of our work, and probably you need to know that we are at the forefront in making sure that this is properly achieved. And I've just mentioned a few. We also look at the value of assets that we have preserved through our investigations. When we establish that there is merit in pursuing investigations and ensuing processes of making sure that we recover, we value assets as we preserve them, and assets that are preserved so far before the courts across the country are valued at over 1.5 billion Kenya shillings. And what we also concentrate on throughout the year is that once we have our budgets approved, or the national budget approved by Parliament in April or so of every year, we find that ministries, departments, and agencies of government ensure implementation of processes after July of every year. But occasionally, there are situations of scandals and corrupt practices within some of these public institutions. And before anything is put in proper use, there are processes that are supposed to be followed. And on many occasions, we receive information that a procurement process is faulty or flawed, and that there is conspiracy to defraud the public through such like systems. We spring into action by going in and observing the process, investigating, and once we start, on many occasions, we stop such processes so that the right process of supply chain or procurement and tendering system is observed. So through this, about 20 billion Kenya shillings have always been every year a critical area of attention for us to achieve in terms of disruption. We have some particular cases where we've actually averted loss of public money, and some of them are big value projects. And for example, we've had a regular tender for the construction of a university engineering complex at the Multimedia University, which was to cost about 1.8 billion shillings. But we found out that the process was not properly followed, or methods within counties, several counties, tax evasion issues like the importation of the methanol sugar at KRA last year, or so, about 400 million shillings, one off or one particular instance. So I'm just mentioning a few among many. In the last 5 years, we've achieved in conclusion of our investigation processes and the engagement that we have with courts through the or in partnership with the DPP or Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, we've had many cases concluded, but out of which over 67 cases registering convictions. And when I say cases, it's just about the cases. If there is an accusation about a particular scandal or a corrupt activity in a ministry or in a department, it becomes one case when we go to court with it. But some of them carry 10, 15, 20 people with themselves. So I'm not talking about the number of people or individuals who have been accused and convicted eventually, but I'm talking about the cases that yielded in convictions over the last 5 years, about 67. And last year alone, last financial year alone, we registered 35. This year they are already over that number. And the results are very satisfying, and actually we are getting increased achievement in this area as we go. And of course, you can recall some of the latest notable faces as far as convictions is concerned when we mention individuals such as former PSS like Mr. Kirui, or a senior city hall official like Mr. Gakua, and very many others that we can talk about. So basically, this is how we are progressing. We've conducted many public outreach programs. We are interested in more discussion because that is where the future of the fight against corruption is. We